Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for your patience. It was exactly the 3 month mark, and it's late. It's not late for Jesse time, but I want to get this in. I want to get every reading in that was purchased on that date. It's just been a crazy time for me, um, and quite difficult to get readings done when you're having to be tour guide and family, and you know how it is. It's tough, but I'm back. I'm officially back. So I need to make sure that the audio is not gonna mess me up. 1 second. Test, test, test. Okay. Perfect. So I have everything prepped. I have initials. I'll screenshot that. Okay, so LL. All right, so I'm gonna share the screen, and I'm very random. Sometimes I share the screen most of the readings. Sometimes I don't share it much. I'm just a random kind of guy. One quick second though. One quick moment. We have a big storm over here in the Bay Area. It just started, and my dog's being a little bit barky. Hold on. Okay. Very good, very good, very good. Some water in the pool. And let's dive right in. Okay. So, what do we have here? It's so funny. I literally was like looking at like my next 7 readings, and like every single person, it was like Venus, like either Taurus or I mean, like mostly like all like I swear I'm not gonna like show it because it would show the names, but every single like every single one of the next 7 that I have to do had at least a Taurus sun or moon, and many had like I just did a double Taurus, a triple Taurus even because their Venus is there. So I guess you know this happens to me all the time with a it's always like a very random, like it's not like Taurus. It's like it's just like I'll have like a very just random um configuration that is the same for every client. Okay, is my internet out? Please say no. Okay, hold up. This would not be good. Okay, I think it's still working. So anyways. So we have here a Libra Sun conjunct Pluto, and Venus is also there, and we got that 12th house activated with a Scorpio rising with Mercury rising, and Mars is conjunct Sun. So Sun, or in order, Venus, Pluto, Sun, Mars, and then Uranus is not aspecting any, but still in that Libra area. So let's see what we can find. Then we got the seventh house, Taurus moon, right on the ascendant. Nice retrograde Jupiter in Pisces. Juno's close by. Luck. It's a good one for having a luck and love. And then we got that North Node conjunct Neptune. Sounds just like the last reading I did, but it was uh, instead of that, it was a Pisces North Node in the ninth house. So both are utilizing Sagittarius and Pisces. Now I need to actually look at something just to make sure I'm not making any kind of mistake. Okay. I just want to check our IG convo. Okay. All right. Okay. So we are good. So let's go back to this and start talking. So, anyways, when you see a chart that has this much 12th house, it's always interesting. 12th house is a very hard to define place. And when you have this many planets there, it's I think you got, or wait, you didn't get the follow-up. Well, maybe you will decide to. If so, that would definitely be something that we would talk about. All these 12th house planets, because what happens, with the 12th house is basically, so it can be like a very, very strong house, but it can also be what some might call the house of repressed energies. Um, and the reason for that is that when one's young and they have a lot of 12th house, these are what you could call weaker energies, right? Um, and when I say weak, I'm not implying anything related to the character. But it's just very, very raw. So sometimes what happens to people who have lots of 12th house when they're young is that they can have a sort of identity crisis of sorts, because 12th house is Pisces, remember? And they can kind of get pushed around a little bit, it can be a little bit rough, right? Now, when Mars and Sun are there, and Venus, and let's see aspects. So it's not looking like you see, so you don't have very many difficult aspects. Um, I see. Yeah. Okay. I have to actually look at my eyes because my program will lie to me. Any fixed 14. Okay. The moon's squaring left and Lilith, but there's no opposition. Well, I guess the ascendant opposite moon and Sun is just the conjunctions of Mars and Pluto, which is very interesting because it's a midpoint between Mars and Pluto. Um, and then any cardinal 10. Yeah. Like, what is wrong with my program? Like, Saturn is clearly, is it? Yeah, I mean, it shows it's square with Mars, but it's also square Sun. So Saturn, I mean, I use like for me, that's definitely a 8-degree square is definitely a square. So, anyways, but still, it's not like the moon ones are the ones that really are difficult, and you don't really have any difficult ones besides the. I mean, I'm just looking once again. 9:20 a.m. So yeah, we really verified this. Okay, I just want to go to the email just in case. My PTSD from doing one reading where it was, I think, 11:48 p.m. and it was a.m. that we did. But while I'm doing that, basically with the thing, with what I was saying is that these energies, it can be very difficult and it can feel very empowering when young. And at its core, it's all about soul development and spirituality, right? Um, but 12th house, types, and what's interesting is that it's in Libra, which is a very social sign, right? But 12th house types tend to be more, okay, so you said 4th October. Yep, yep, yep. Okay. City is written correctly. Okay, so we are good. Okay. So yeah, 12th house types, it's very unique. I'm trying to decide where I want to start. So, okay, basically start with this. So yes, you're a Libra, right? But you're Scorpio rising, and your Libra sun is conjunct Pluto. Pluto is the planet that rules Scorpio. Now, with that said, because your sun is in Libra in the 12th house, and it has the conjunction of Pluto, and your Scorpio rising, I would imagine that in your eighth house has South Node. So regardless, that you would resonate with that sign, with water energy, with the Pisces, 12th house of Pisces, and Scorpio. So, I've had many clients, one in particular who had this configuration, not the exact same, just being a Libra with Pluto conjunct it, and she's extremely wealthy, very, very powerful, self-made woman. And one second, I need to let my dog back up to his mom's room because he's scared of the storm. Come on, Kiko, it's okay. Go, buddy. Go, Kiko. Okay. Change to a light up. Okay. Can't wake my mom up. Close the door. Okay, very good. Sorry for the delays. It's just that this dog was barking like crazy. And it's super late. My mom gets up early. And I took him down, calmed down a little bit, and then he wanted to go back up. And now he's back up. Okay, anyways, back to the work. So, sit down. So basically, it definitely creates a very, very, very different energy than, what you normally get from a Libra. Um, what I always say when I see this is, and I guess I would say what I usually say, like in the live follow up, is what is your relationship to power and to either the feeling of empowerment or disempowerment? Because Pluto on the sun, right? It can, especially if there were issues. One second. My phone's like blowing up with all these like charges. Hold on. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Okay. So yeah, like when I've seen this, it's always interesting. So I'll tell you a few different counts. Um, so I've seen this in one way work in a very almost like super scorpionic way, where the individual had lots of issues with finding that power within herself. And because of that, it externalized and created this sort of obsession with control, mostly in relationships. Now, I've also seen it where it just created an extremely powerful individual, someone who, just rises above any challenge, has the, that real power, that real power, but it's not based on trying to control, right? So a lot of it comes back to, in this case, the father, right? Um, 12th house sun conjunct Pluto would oftentimes indicate and I don't like to make predictions about these types of things because there really is like an unlimited scope of what can happen in honestly in astrology. Like the sun, like in my chart, for example, my sun is representing my mom, right? But generally the sun is the dad, the moon is the mother, right? But generally when there's a 12th house sun, it denotes a father that was either not very present or in some way had a weak effect on the individual's life. 1 second. Why is she calling me? I'm so sorry for all these holdups. I'm really, really sorry. It's just like, okay. So yeah, basically there's always the one thing that always happens with that though is there's always this real heightened intensity when it comes to the individual and it comes out a lot in relationships. So it's very like um paramount like how the relationship with the father was, right? Now I looked around like, okay, well, I don't see anything that I would call difficult. And then but then I also see Mars right there. So a midpoint astrology is if you can see my cursor, you see how this is 6, this is 14, and this is 10. So the coming together of the Pluto and Mars, which are two malefics, right? Um, is right on the sun. So Libra this is an interesting chart because Libra is very typically very agreeable. Um, it can definitely lack boundaries also, but the thing about that is that I feel like this would give you just like way more firepower. Um, and Pluto has to do with the shadow, right? So when you have your sun conjunct Pluto, you're someone who typically is, it's obviously very, very deep, especially in the 12th house. I already said intense. And just there's oftentimes like these very like profound inner outer forces, events, relationships, whatever it is that have like a very intense, I keep saying intense, but just like very life-changing, dramatic impact on the life, right? I've never seen someone with this that isn't super ambitious, although the 12th house can sort of sweep that away a little bit. Um, but even regardless of the house, just having Pluto and Mars conjunct the sun, it's gonna make someone, as a Scorpio rising too, which makes the ruling planet of your chart, um, um, Pluto and it'd be like co-ruled by Pluto and Mars, depending on what system you use. Um, but either way, they're both there on the sun, the same distance. So definitely very, very ambitious, lots of willpower. And there's also what's interesting is that I would usually say that there's like almost like an allergy to like small talk and anything that's not like super deep and profound. Um, but like I said, Libra as a sign is an air sign. It's very sociable, and it by itself, and keyword key phrase by itself, does not really like to shake the boat as much as with other signs, right? It's about peace and balance, tranquility. So, you know, having the Pluto there, I think, and the Mars can definitely give you more of an edge than the typical Libra. And then we add the fact that you have a Scorpio rising. Um, Scorpio risings are old souls. They, um, they definitely have this vibe about them where it's like I'm not someone who like claims to be so good at guessing rising signs, you know? I don't know. I never really. I mean, I guess I looked into it a little bit, but it was never something I was super like curious about. But I feel like Scorpio rising is like probably of all the rising signs, the one that I'm like, okay, I know that's a Scorpio rising. Um, and it's because there's this mystique. Um, they can be quiet or not, but they nearly always have this intrigue, this like it's like almost like this it's very difficult to read them. They enter the room and even if they don't say anything, you notice them. If you're perceptive at least. And interestingly, as I was just talking about, like, they might not say much, but they're observing, they're probing, they're really trying to like figure out what's going on within themselves and within, the environment. So what's interesting is that Mercury, which is the planet of communication, is right on the rising, or it's 5 degrees away or 4.5, so it's right there. So that would typically make someone who is communicative, right? But then I look around, I'm like, what element do I not see in your chart? Fire. But I do see lots of air, but no fire. Um, so it is an enigma. It's an enigma. But I would wager that Mercury rising, would make someone especially in this very scorpionic way, like really want to express themselves, but probably probably be more tactful and strategic in regards to how they do it. But definitely um your your mind, your thoughts, you know, it might be something that's not shared with everyone, but it definitely plays a huge role, right? Um, and Mercury in Scorpio is very much about getting to the bottom of everything, right? It can be very obsessive when it comes to, let's say, you really wanted to study astrology or numerology or something like that. The Scorpio Venus can really just probe deep and deep and deep and deep and deep. Um, and it seeks these answers, but the cool thing is that it seeks them from within themselves, right? Um, which leads me to my next point, and don't worry, I'm gonna wrap around and everything will make sense. But yeah. So with what I just said, we look at the next house, right? And I haven't even like said much about this talk. I've just given a little intro. But the North Node, which is extremely important, um, especially to the type of astrology I do, it represents it's not a planet, but it represents kind of what the soul, what you're basically what you're trying to the metaphoric mountain. I need a new metaphor. I've said that too many times. Whatever. Yeah, the metaphoric mountain that you have not climbed in different incarnations, right? So this is what's interesting. Sagittarius is all about wisdom that's more external, right? So Scorpio is about that more internal wisdom, shadow work, you know. Another thing I would imagine with the Mercury there is that, because it's interesting though, because like the 12th house can make one quite shy. Um, but then you have all this, you have Mars and Pluto, so I'm like, maybe not. But overall, Sag, it's about finding wisdom. So it's basically saying in this lifetime, you and it's in the second house, so and it's conjunct Neptune. So in this lifetime, you're trying to merge, and this literally just happened in my last reading, like I just said, merge what I am, which is Pisces Sag. Um, so what I mean by that is that um you're trying to, on one hand, get past a past life tendency to not to be a little bit scattered, I guess you could say, and to not connect everything to a larger philosophy, right? Um, and I think spirituality plays a role for sure. And I'm looking at the square of the node, and I see it's Jupiter, which is interesting because Jupiter is the planet that rules your north node. Your south node is ruled by Mercury. So Jupiter's over here in Pisces in the fifth. So when I see that, my instant thought is that there's some level of past life conditioning, and I wouldn't put any of the blame on you. Um, but I would believe that it would have something to do with, how in this current time, so many people, excuse my throats, so many people are led astray by, people have different views and whatnot, but like a lot of people are just completely just led astray by media and just, what I'm talking about. So with that, especially it being retrograde, it's interesting to me because it makes me think that in a past life or in past lives, you were misled, and that misleading, and it's also shown by Neptune being opposite the South Node. It kept you in less of a deep, how do you say, like more materialist, logical as opposed to spiritual and internal. And it could have come from anywhere. It could come from the family. It could come from the society. Who knows? All I know is the symbolism I see. Now, the fact so that so when I see that square, I think of shattered dreams. You know, like the image that comes to my head is a dreamer who was basically told that almost like gaslit, like, you know, told that, what they believed in was not real or something like that. So having it retrograde in this life, it makes one very internally philosophical, and having all of this 12th house energy in the Scorpio, Mercury, um, which is, like I said, the rule of your South Node over here on your ascendant, it is a lifetime that it's so much of the importance is about you learning and you exposing yourself to different, whether it's, Sagittarius has a lot to do with different cultures, right? That's one example. Um, but it's not just that, obviously. It's learning metaphorically or learning physically. But it's about expansion, right? Inner expansion. So when you add Neptune to it, the planet that rules, Pisces, the 12th house, it's it's this energy of combining this more physical Sagittarian type of learning, right? An example besides traveling, an example would be this astrology, or learning a different type of philosophy, like just trying so many different things on, but not being so scattered, right? Um, but then you add Neptune to it, and it's actually a pretty beautiful combination because that is, um, for lack of a better word, that's God. That's God. That is finding the divine, right? So it's like it's almost like seeking spiritual answers, right? So I was saying, the South Node is all about, I guess you could say, like subconscious motivations that are from the past, and it kind of inclines you to that. So Gemini, and it's not a bad thing, but it's there's a lot of been there, done that, right? So yeah, with Gemini eighth house, my first thought is like, okay, um, also there's also like an over reliance on someone else's word or someone else's truth, right? So second house north node, is about not self accountability. That's not the correct word. I'm trying to be very accurate with my words. Um, Especially when I'm talking to a Scorpio, Mercury. But it's about really finding within yourself a value system, a moral system, almost like a rule book that doesn't come from anyone else besides you. The perfect metaphoric example is meditation, how or journaling, right? Like when you or any kind of creativity, which, you know, there's another part of your chart, the fifth house with Jupiter there that speaks to that in Pisces, right? It's very creative. And then you have Ceres there also, the asteroid Ceres. So um that's actually one of the best methods. And when I say creativity, it can mean anything. But that's definitely one of the best methods for you. Um, but overall, I just want to make it very clear that, this is an extremely spiritual chart. And that regardless of what happened, if there was anything traumatic, right? If there's anything that, and it doesn't even have to be traumatic, like anything that leaves you with any feeling of shame, right? Um, you have to learn to look at that as a necessary karmic lesson, because in the end, it's brought, I don't know. I don't know you. I'm not gonna guess, because astrology is the chart meets free will. I don't know what you've done with your free will, but you've got a reading from me. So I could make this, I could suppose that you have reached, a high level of spirituality. I don't know, but yeah, like there's there's really this huge need to figure out, first of all, like that you are like needing way like one thing, needing way more alone time than the average person as a 12th houser. Um, the reason for that is because when you have, a lot of Pisces or Neptune or 12th house, is that you tend to take in, you're like a sponge for energy, right? So it's only, when you're alone that you're able to really feel into your own energy and sort of know like what's yours and what's not yours. So a lot of people who have, this configuration, they can struggle to find that and to give themselves that. Um, which can be very difficult. So yeah, that's huge. And I'm sure, I'm not sure, but like I would guess that you know, maybe when you were first getting into astrology, I don't know how into it or not into it you are, but that one second, just have this storm. My charger's breaking. Please don't not work. It would be horrible. But I pause this. I do not want to do it breaking. But yeah, basically like it creates an energy where the person can take on shame, take on like difficult emotions um that don't belong to them, and it can be this lifelong process of having to almost decouple from that. Um, so this leads me to my next point, which is your moon, right? And I'm gonna wrap back around to everything, but I want to talk about your Taurus moon. Of course, not everyone knows, but Taurus moon is a exalted moon sign. So if you were someone who spoke like, what is the best moon sign to have, I don't speak like that because that I don't believe in that. But people would say Cancer or Taurus. Cancer is the dignity position. And basically what it does is that it enables someone to, especially with Taurus, it can make someone very, very grounded, and it really gives someone the ability to be very happy, simply put. Um, but with that said, it's and it's also on an angle. It's round and descendant. You see it over here. So when planets like the moon or any planet really is close to an angle, it gives the planet more strength. But this is the thing though, is that there's potential for, and Libra is known for being a codependent energy. Now, don't like don't think I'm saying that every Libra has codependency issues. That's not what I'm saying at all. But when you do have the seventh house moon right on the descendant, it can create that energy where it can feel difficult to I guess you could say, meet your own emotional, like it can create kind of like a someone who, especially with your Venus, it's 12th house. It's, with Pluto, it can create someone who's very relationship obsessed, right? Now, I want to also say that, and I have Venus square Pluto, so like mine's even harder. Well, yours is 12th house, but whatever. But I know the energy well, right? Like how these two planets combine. And I'm looking over here now. And basically, when you have Venus and Pluto together, of course, a conjunction is going to be, less difficult than, say, a square like I have or an opposition. But it can definitely create a tendency to really fall very fast and to have very, very intense emotions that can sometimes be overwhelming. Um, and of course, it gets easier with age. But the key with Venus, right? And this is why your chart's one reason why your chart is so spiritual and so clearly, it's like back to what I was saying about, like, like the pop-up conditioning and kind of how you were kept away from really exploring yourself in that manner. This, Venus Pluto conjunction, it makes one. Venus is about self-love before anything. Before it can be, yeah, it's planet of love, but really it's about self-love, right? So people who have, Venus and Pluto, um, until they really learn self-love and to value themselves, to see themselves clearly, which can be difficult being a 12 houser, which is why, like, one of the hacks I give to people, which you'd be surprised, well, you probably wouldn't be surprised, that I get a lot of like Pisces, Neptunian type of people. But I like to really, really talk about this hack, which is filming, well, affirmations would be one of them, but, you know, filming yourself, because Neptune is rule. I know it might sound crazy, but Neptune rules um, cameras. So, oh my God, where's my work nightmare? Um, so with the moon where it is, and I've seen this in action many times. As I was saying before, there can be, an obsession with relationship, like um, almost the point where it's like um, it's almost like needed for happiness. Do I think that is how you are? I do not. Um, but it's a potential. Um, and remember that I would be reading you the same way at 20, 30, 40, 50. So it just goes to show, what, like, you've lived how many more years than me? I have more 90, 16 more years than me. So, like, I can't even imagine, like, I don't know if how many readings you've had before, but I couldn't imagine, like, getting my first reading when I was, you know, middle aged, and just seeing, like, how have I, gone towards the highest potential, or how have I, like, not done that. um, but yeah, that's the big one there with the Venus Pluto is it's really about not needing anyone, and that can be very difficult. So this is where I connect some dots. You've heard what I've said so far. Now, back to the North Node, where I always go back to. So I've mentioned, that Libra can be, people pleasing. It can, put other people above itself, not want to rock the ship. I also mentioned that your Libra is a little bit different because of the Mars and the Pluto and the fact that it's in the 12th house. But it all goes back to your North Node, Neptune, because Neptune is also about service. One second. Yeah. So Neptune is all about service. So wait, I need to do a sound check. I think did I tell you my PTSD from no, that was the last client. PTSD I have from okay, I'll tell you in a sec. Test mic. Hello, check, check, check. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Let me try this. Check, check, check. Test, test, test. Check, check, check. Test, test, test. Wait, that does not sound good. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Okay, well, if this, oh my God, I did a reading the other week where like the first 32 minutes, the audio was completely screwed, and why it's too dark, and that sucked. And I had to like literally like because I do my readings in a very just uh, like not I don't like do them in like a robotic way. Like I literally just go um however I want to go. So I had to like really like re-listen to it and like redo it. It was horrible. Anyways, that light didn't really do much. I think these lights are actually kind of screwed with this this storm. Whatever. Anyways, hopefully there's no audio issues. But back to what I was sharing. Um, so yeah, like it all goes back to here. Self-reliance and high spirituality. And the more, so this is so besides the video camera thing, right? Where and I didn't really finish that thought. But basically, because Neptune rules video cameras or your phone camera, you can do like a daily vlog where you talk about your emotions, you talk about any whatever. You don't show anyone. You don't have to show anyone. And it literally has like such a healing effect. I swear, I've been telling people about this for I don't know how many months now, but I've had a lot of people message me be like, "Yo, it like what that thing you told me, it's like really helping me." So just to keep in mind. But yeah, so that's the thing with Neptune, right? Is that it 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 in the 12th house, it's fog, it's foggy, right? It can create confusion, foggy, um, issues with um issues with seeing yourself clearly. So by being someone who is of service, um, and who's also continuously learning, and who's not kind of staying in like a, it's so crazy how many North Node and Sag people I get, because those are people who are really, really ready to take that next step. They really, really want to find that deep. It's like you're a truth seeker. You are 1000% a truth seeker, and that Scorpio energy makes it even more. But you know, back to the 12th. My throat. Back to the 12th. There's certainly a very magical side to this, right? And that's why the 12th is so like hard to pin down. Um, and I could start with Uranus, right? So Uranus in 12th is like super psychic. It's someone who can receive downloads, you know, um, when they're able to ground themselves, they can, for example, like in dreams, meditations, they can receive these just unbelievable downloads. And just learning, it can be a difficult journey to like really learn to trust the intuition. And that is why it's so important to have the right people around you, right? So with like speaking of people around you, like I said, so the Uranus obviously, it's kind of like on its own islands at 27. The other ones are within 12 degrees of each other. These two are together, Sun and Mars and Pluto. And then Venus is there, but it's just not conjunct Mars. But basically, like, um, the high energy of it is, as I was saying before, finding that self-love, right? And Venus in Libra is, you know, it's the best position, the dignity position with Taurus, right? So it is a strong Venus sign. It's just in an interesting house. Um, but oftentimes people who have Venus in Libra are really able to see the positivity in themselves and in others. And Taurus moon also, right? And Taurus moon seventh house, so this is why like if you're like in a happy marriage or if you're like in a situation that's really, really positive, um, seventh house Venus, like what I've noticed from people who have that is that they have this ability to just see the beauty. You know how some people are so nitpicky and they just only see the bad? That it's like the opposite. It's like where they can truly, they really, really have this emotional need with the moon there to be connected to someone else. And it's not just relationships. Seventh house rules clients. If you were doing, something like I'm doing, for example, or any variation of it, right? Um, I don't know if everyone would agree with me, but I ponder this quite a bit, and I don't see how, like a BFF, like a best friend, where it's like women and some men become so close, right? Especially I'd say women more because there's more of an emotional nature usually, culture to the relationships that it can almost like I think it can be almost like seventh housey, Like if you have a best friend that you do everything with, it's almost, or it probably is like closer than an actual relationship in some cases. So um the thing is, it, like when I pin it back to this second house north node, it's this need to not rely too much on other people, right? But then in your chart, there's lots of indications of that potential. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there and go back to what I was saying. So with um with Venus and Pluto, right? Like last thing I'll say about that is that with age, it tends to become a lot better, especially the conjunction, and it can make someone, especially 12th house, really want like a very spiritual relationship and a very peaceful yet very powerful and life-changing relationship. Very faded too, because you got Pluto and Venus. So it's you're learning a lot from that. Now, when you add the sun in Libra at 10 degrees and you connect it with Pluto, that is more difficult in the sense that is what I was saying earlier about like the power struggles and need for control. But I need to say it is a conjunction, and nothing in astrology is a death wish, right? Um, and I believe if I had to guess, like which I don't do, but I'll just say anyways, whatever. Like I'd say, maybe some early struggles around these kind of concepts, codependency, whatnot, boundaries in relationships, choosing the wrong types, because Pluto is the darkness, right? So it's like you'd see your shadow a lot through relationships, but in time, um, my guess would be that you did really start to find that self love, which then made you value yourself to the point to where you're like, I don't need this type of person. I don't need anyone. But then that seventh house Taurus moon's like, nah, I don't know. This is the moon. This is the emotions. In the seventh, on the descendant, it can kind of rely a lot on other people. On the lovers, on those people, on those. Usually it's relying a lot on the lovers for like that emotional comfort and emotional feeling of emotional prosperity and okayness. But yeah, like with the Libra, I would say that the Pluto was probably very interesting because you go like I just like it's so ambitious um and so piercing and it and I'll see the asteroids in a little bit, but like it can really create like a woman who can really hold her shit, as they say, um, in like the patriarchal world, right? Um, and you add Mars to that, and it's like double what I just said. It gives assertiveness, it gives action, but this is the thing. You have a very complicated chart, my friend. Not, and that's not an insult at all. It's more about just many contradictions. Um, so with Mars, right, which is the planet of action, and it's like the assertiveness function we all have, right, within us. Having that in Libra is a very difficult Mars placement because it can be very, very indecisive. I guess I'll go to face mode a little bit. I miss my lights from Romania, like blue and whatever color lights. Is that enough light? Just there's like literally thunder, so I'm kind of just like, yeah. Um, so yeah, basically, with the yeah, so with the Mars and the Sun, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, with the Mars and the Sun, it's very very energetic. Um, it's creating someone who, especially 12th house, who has to work hard. But then in Libra, it's very indecisive and it can have so much trouble making decisions for itself. So that goes back to, you can see it, to this second house north node, right? Um, about not relying on anyone besides yourself, right? Just like you are the one who calls the shots because of a moral code, like a book that you wrote that is like the rules you're living by, metaphorically. Um, but also what this will do, Sun and Mars just together, it gives love for adventure, anything fun, and it gives like a just like Sun, Pluto, and Mars just gives boundless energy, just like so much energy, right? Um, but it can also be very, very risk taking. This is what I want to get into. Um, Impulsivity and taking self-sabotaging risks is very common with a Mars in the 12th. With that said, the fact that it is in Libra might, in a weird way, save you because Mars and Libra, like I said, they aren't very impulsive, right? Even though there is that conjunction with the Sun in Pluto, um, it's like in terms of like decisions, always balancing the pros and the cons, right? And sometimes just doesn't come to anything. My girlfriend has this. Um, but the outlet, and I'm so curious if you're an artist. I have this weird thing on my nose. This nose when we talk about my throat. Sorry for being a weirdo. Um, yeah, so there's this artistic drive, right? So like the best way to channel Mars and Libra is through something creative, a creative outlet, right? But also it's very, very diplomatic. And it's like the middle man or woman, that wants everyone to be happy, wants, the one that people come to during conflicts. But yeah, like just I wish we had a follow up. And if you want to add one, I'll give you one for a lower price than usual. And uh, same goes for the current astrology. Most people do both. Um, and it's the best because we have like 3 hours together live and we just talk about everything. First hour this, and then hour two, hour three, and sometimes a little bit over. Everything happening current astrology wise. But so yeah, back to what I was saying with the Mars in 12th house is that it's that sense of personal power that feels eroded, right? Which goes back to what I was saying about the father and about how important that relationship, like like that was such, like that relationship would be extremely impactful. Um, but yeah, Mars in 12th, I've seen this first person many, many times. And it can be this like these emotional outbursts, like not even really just these like actions, like these actions, just outbursts, like out of the blue, they just happen. Um, like my friend, she was dating this guy a few years ago, and he had this placement, and he would just do like he was fine, and then he would just like mess up so bad. Like he would just do something just like out of like what? Like what? Like what? Like what he did what? And um, there can be also like a kind of a and remember this is like I'm gonna give you the high vibe version. But like there can be also like a feeling of almost like directionlessness. And this goes back to the past life stuff. You see how I'm connecting it all? Because, when you come in this life, you don't just find your North Node, right? Um, and having that placement, it would have made it difficult to like I'm curious like when you found spirituality. Um, being a 12th house or it could have been like I literally like don't know. Like it could have been very early just because of the nature of the 12th house, and the fact that you're Scorpio rising with Mercury rising. Or it could have been something like I said, the 12th house is the house of repressed energies. So it really like it makes free will so important. And when we talk about healing the 12th house karma, it's service. And in your case, Libra, creativity. And yeah, it's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting stuff. So there's also another level of like with the Venus Pluto of drama that tends to happen, right? And being like consumed with love and passion and really like having such very high expectations um of a partner. Um and basically like a lot of times what can happen is that there can be disappointment um when others fail to kind of live up to like a very high standard. Um, why is my charger doing this? I guess I have enough power. No, that's right. It goes back to that thing I said, like the emotional depth, the need for that. But positively, extreme loyalty. Um, Libra, I wouldn't say is known. I wouldn't like call it a loyal energy or sign. I I'm not a sinus, so I'm not gonna like say like all Scorpios are loyal and all Libra, like all Geminis are not loyal. But what I would say is that having this together can make someone super committed and someone who wants to fight for any injustice. Um, and your midheaven's in the 11th house, so it's like you could have had um a lot of thoughts or your career whatever you do for like the big picture in your life could be very linked to helping other people, making the world a better place in some way, right? Being a healer perhaps. Now where is so and then of course as I say that I'm like where's Chiron? Well, it's in the 6th house. Interesting. In Aries. Ooh, now that is interesting. Why is that interesting, Jesse? I'll tell you why. So you have no fire in your chart, right? And then your Aries, or your Chiron, excuse me, is in Aries, which is fire. And when I say no fire, I'm talking about the 6 personal planets, the big three, and Mercury, Venus, Mars. Now, this is what's interesting. This is when I know someone's an old soul and an evolved soul. And I already call it out now from the Scorpio rising thing. Like I just had that intuition, that feeling. Now, when I see this, I'm like nearly positive, right? And it's that your North Node is in fire. So you're trying to become more fiery, more assertive, more action oriented, more like taking life into your own hands. Like, this is what I'm doing, right? But then Chiron in the sixth, but mainly in Aries, it can make one really feel this fear of self-assertion, you know, this fear of like really like staying of stating how they feel in a situation, which is totally Libra, right? Um, and there can be like overcompensation. Um, Sometimes it's like trying to be first at everything. Um, but like overall, it can make you like a healer, like someone who's like a pioneer in how you service, you know, or, like how like make you a pioneer in the way and the manner in which you are of service to humanity. And now this is the sixth house rules what we do every day. So to have Chiron there is very interesting because I see a lot of healers who have Chiron in the sixth house because, like I just said, that's what you do each day. But a different angle on Chiron in the sixth house is that it can relate to physical inadequacy, right? Feeling that way. Um, and my computer light is too bright. And there can also have been like some kind of like physical issue as a child, um, that led you, child, teen, whatever, that led you down this road of self-healing, right? And then that allowed you to teach it, perhaps, or to have that, play a role in your everyday life. Um, Kind of on a similar subject, but not really, is the fact that, actually, maybe I should talk about the fact that your Saturn, no, uh, no. Well, I was going to talk about, I'll talk about Jupiter. So Jupiter is in Pisces. That's a very beautiful placement. It just makes someone very, very intuitive. And it's retrograde, which is that Jupiter retrograde is good. There's like this inner kind of philosophical outlook. Perhaps you felt like shut down a little bit early on, maybe his family. Um, and it's another one of these very like uh healer oriented, like champion of the underdog kind of vibes. Um, Someone who can really, really teach a lot about spirituality and about subjects, different subjects related to that. But then it's, and of course, Pisces is super creative sign. It's in the fifth house, which is the house of creativity. Now, this is also the house of, creativity means children too. So that could be a very, very, very good. If you do have children, that would be a very, very good placement for having good karma with your children, good relationships with them. Um, but really, Jupiter fifth house is like someone who's always looking for ways to express themselves creatively. And yeah, just like always looking for freedom in terms of like how one can express themselves. Whether it's through actual art or whether it's through just being in touch with the inner child. So yeah. And then Juno, the planet, the asteroid of like what you look for in a mate, is right conjunct Jupiter in Pisces. So I already talked about how your love is very karmic. Um, well, this shows that even more, and this would actually give a lot of luck. Jupiter gives luck to whatever it touches. So if it touches Juno in Pisces, it makes you really want to, through love, feel that divine oneness, which is connected to what? Your Neptune and North Node. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, I already said, the first part that is lots of karma, lots of love, lots of lessons in love, some easy, some hard. Um, but that it could be through partnership that a lot of like the most important lessons are learned, right? So it's interesting stuff. But yeah, it's really like almost like really wanting to, yeah, be at one with the world through your relationship, find that oneness. It's super romantic. Um, yeah, and but then like so yeah, Pisces energy might be energy that attracts you, that real deep compassion, but then also having that Scorpio energy, you need to be able to like say whatever you need, like you can't hold like be with someone that like holds you back in terms of like you need to be able to say what you want to say. Um, and speaking of that, you have Ceres is also uh think of it like it's like how you nurture and how you nurture. It's in Pisces in the fifth also. So that in the fifth, um, you nurture others by like some type of creative, artistic, fun way, It's also another amazing one for children, being very warm and caring in relation to them. And it would all, in love make one, very attracted to your playfulness, right? Um, even if it's a Scorpio rising, um, which can appear very serious, when people get to know you, Taurus moon is so fun loving, you know, the Pisces energy, and even the 12th house, there's some intensity in it, but it's Libra, it's Venus, your double Venus, your sun is and moon are both ruled by Venus, the planet of love. So it's very interesting. So curious to hear about like your lived experience. Because this is what like so I read a lot of charts and like some of them I'm like, all right, I know like I have a very good idea of like how this would play out. But others I'm like, wow, like there's so many different ways this could play out. So yeah. Um and then series so in Pisces, right? Um it's just like more spirituality, like you feel really nurtured when you experience that oneness that your North Node is literally asking you for, right? With Neptune. Um and it's a signature of a healer series in Pisces, right? Really caring for others, wanting to like really relieve their pain, all that kind of stuff. And really, yeah, really having like lots of compassion for your loved ones and wanting that back, wanting that unconditional love. So then how long have I been going? Okay, well, it's literally, I'm so sorry, is it pitch black? No, okay, that's because my computer thinks that. I still need to like turn this up a little bit. Just uh, storm. Okay. um this is my Merlin stone. It's very powerful. So, um, So Neptune by itself in the second, still worth talking about. You know, obviously it's with the North Node. So this kind of plays in with some of the 12th house stuff where there can be like some being a little bit unrealistic in that fog around your self-worth. I imagine this being more early in life. Um, like lack also like second house is money is financially related, so there can be like lack of clarity around money and possessions. Things so it's really important to understand the metaphysical value as opposed to the physical value, you know. Um, yeah. Neptune second house, I mean, I feel like it's a very interesting placement. It can make money go up and down, but then when you start to kind of not care about it, but just like trust that things are just going to be okay as long as you work hard and you do your best. Um, things get better. But it is not one it not it is not like a great one for finances generally. Um, but like it does create minimalists too, or people who just like don't really care that much about money, you know. Um, and being that it's the second house ruled by Sag, by Jupiter, it can make you more interested in spending money on things like traveling or things like astrology, things that really help you expand yourself. But, you know, it's usually good for the second house Neptune people to have someone who's like, um, practical when it comes to money because the 12th house, like I said, 12th house Mars can just like spend a bunch of money, like, oh shit, what I do? I'm not saying that to you. But like a lot of times, yeah, it's like, and I've seen this in second house, like people just, especially when young, not really just not paying attention to their expenses. Oh, why did I spend that money on that jacket? I don't even like it, like that. Um, so yeah, it's like, but like a lot of times, like people with this just don't really care about like money isn't like this huge thing to them. Doesn't mean they don't want it. It's just like, yeah. Um, well, oh yeah, I thought of this. So another thing about this placement that you have to watch out for is not, let's say you're an artist, right? Let's say you're a painter. It would be like you write, you make this amazing painting, but you charge way less than what it's actually worth, right? And how much time it took you and all that. So that's, valuing yourself, valuing what you create, what you bring to the table is so important. Um, so mm, was the eyes hurting. So this is Sun and Neptune. It's 13 and 10. I mean, 7 and 10. So, and then Neptune's also 7. Yeah, so I mean, it does have a nice sextile with the sun. Um, And honestly, it's in the 12th, so it can make you kind of it can sometimes like if it was in the 10th, the sun, I still go. It's like it can make someone famous as an artist. Um, However, in the 12th, um, it can be almost like a hidden genius in terms of art. It's very interesting. Okay. Okay. So Saturday the 9th. Okay. This is an interesting one, right? Because you well, yeah, your Saturn return. Um so Saturn in the 9th, so many astrologers have this. Isn't that interesting? Um and you wouldn't think so, but it actually gives like so the first 30 years probably I would assume like more difficult, I would just guess, because um like you were probably stuck in your south node, I would guess a little bit because um you know Saturn would be restricting that in the ninth house, which is the house that has that um is related to Sagittarius, your north node, your destiny point, if you want to call it that, the mountain never climbed. So Saturn, for the first 3 years, it probably would, it could restrict travel, it could restrict higher learning, opening of the mind, stuff like that, and kind of maybe keep you in because they say the first 30 years are really, really more karmic, and then after that, it's more free will, right? So, yeah, this brightness, where's my? I have an app on my computer, but it's gonna make the recording not like that good. But yeah, it really makes it, so yeah, so there, yeah, like restricted and exploring the meaning of life early on for sure. But then after that, later in life, after the Saturn turn, it gives like a very serious approach or investigation into different philosophies, right? So that's why a lot of astrologers have it because they take that more serious approach towards like studying truth, higher truth. Um, and then yeah, so Saturn Cancer can make one feel kind of like isolated within their own family. But also they can feel like kind of more inhibited and shy the first 30 years. Yeah. But then still like be very serious when it comes to like taking your family responsibilities and um everything related to that. So, mhm, 13. So yeah, I talked about the risk taking. It's basically seven. So Pluto's pretty much conjunct Mars. I mean, it's the sun's in the middle, which makes it even more. So that's a very volcanic one, but they are separated by quite a bit, but still, we're talking about. And that is one of my volcanic list placements, right? I don't know if you saw those. But it definitely just gives someone just this mega power towards like goal achievement. So, that 12th house for you, I'm telling you, it's like it can be your worst enemy or your best friend. It really can. But these two together, but it all comes down to power and control. And as I said, I will repeat it, all comes down to power and control. and a relaxed attitude towards life where you're not, trying to dominate others. And, you know, learning. So this is another part of your chart, learning to work in a team, environment, which the Libra is asking from you. That's the interesting part. So it's like, ah, I want to hear so bad because it's like I could see like the Libra part being really cooperative, but then like these little mishaps happening, and then you just kind of getting better and better and better at it until you've mastered it, and then it's just like a powerful non-pushover Libra, which is so cool. But yeah, basically like this is Mars, Pluto, it just like makes very volatile relationships, lots of intense energy. I tell anyone with that, you got like it's very important to have physical exercise. It can be very quick to anger also, for sure. Um, it can be sinister as well. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's almost like the ultimate warrior energy, but it's 7 degrees, so yeah. But like overall, like with this and the Pluto and the Sun, it's like, and I've kind of said this already, but like I purposely repeat things. It basically like for healthy relationships in all walks of life, not just romantic. It's about just like transforming this like very raw primal energy to something higher, right? Where you're helping up, like, and it's done through being of service. Um, and through selfless action, that is the boom, 12th house healer. Um, I know I said video camera, but service, being of service, selfless service is just like I've seen it in my life with friends and clients, but like, clients like they're at a certain level usually when they come to me, not always, but like it's quite seldom that I get like a client who's like just totally just messed up, I did have a ex girlfriend who her life was, she was very 12th housey. Her life was just all over the place. And then she actually started really caring about spirituality. And she's doing like her life is way more stable now. I mean, she's not perfect, but, and I don't really talk to her, on that level. But, from last time I heard from her, she was seemed like a lot better. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So yeah, um, so like it's not it's like very good the ambition, right? Aiming for the top, nothing wrong with it. Um, it's just about not doing it in a way where you might trample over others, because that's kind of what this can create. Um, and yeah, yeah. Because like the beauty of it is that like there's this charisma, this power, right? But also good morals and ethics that all come together, and it's very rare. And it can really, really be life changing for people who might not feel as powerful. Um, yeah. So, mm, are they retrograde? So that's not, yeah, it's way bad than the retrograde. Um, Mm-hmm. Let me look at this one then. Yeah, so another thing, like yeah, just that deep connection with the psychic world is so important. Just overall. Um, and just finding that peace and harmony within yourself. And as I said, taking risks, not being scared and just going, trying this, trying this, trying this, trying that, trying this, trying this, trying that, and really trying to, understand that you have an extremely spiritual chart and that you should, be around other people who share that passion, who can say anything to. Okay, fill in the blank. So Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius in the fourth. Interesting placement. So Black Moon Lilith is kind of like the dark side, like it's not a planet, it's just like a potential. Um, so if I think of like Black Moon Lilith, I would think, okay, well, fourth house family. Um, and then like with Aquarius, it's like this aloofness, right? Um, so and it also through friends, so it can make one, it can create like issues with friends or and even feeling rejected and my eyes are literally blinking right now because my computer, I need to turn on this it's called F.lux and it dims your computer light. So if you see it, I'm sorry, but my eyes are just like hurting from looking at this, or doing too many readings, too many screens today. um yeah, so basically just like it's it can be disagreements with friends, um or just groups in general, like feeling ostracized, um and also it can be, um like Aquarius sometimes can be quite aloof and just not really want to feel emotions, I guess. They're like, I'd rather just not feel it. That can be one part, but it comes down to like a fear of powerlessness, right? Which can that fear of powerlessness, it can lead to isolation, um, or even criticism for not being strong enough, right? Um, even like, so a lot of people with that can really hide their weakness from the world, right? Um, which can come from the father stuff, if I'm correct about that, right? And it can make someone quite judgmental on other people that they deem weaker than them. Um, but like the thing about this one that's interesting is that like it definitely gives someone like a power that they might not even understand that they can use to either like bring people up so high or just crush them. And that goes back to Libra with all the Pluto also. Um, what else? Let me think for a second. Yeah, I mean, I guess like if you're talking about power, um, there can be like not only a fear of powerlessness and of like losing all that, and having to like overcompensate in those ways I described, or the opposite, right? Which is fearing their own power, which you with your Pluto, you know, who knows? So like, okay, how like the integration, I guess, obviously, comes from once again, I've said it a million times, just really asking yourself about, your attitude towards power. And once again, like practicing that self-reinforcement. Um, so yeah, and building people up and every chance, you have instead of pulling them down. I'm not saying you do that. Remember, Black Widow is only a potential. Okay, I think we're about close. 145 again. I cannot do a freaking reading under 2 hours. Well, or under like close to that. Okay, so Palace in the third and Cap. Okay, well that's interesting. So that is gonna give lots of wisdom. Um, someone whose mind can be quite structured. Very good for success. Um, organization, all that. Third house is very good for intelligence and acquiring knowledge. Um, also very good for communication. It's like some CEO type energy right there. And yeah, yeah, it's nice. It's good for entrepreneurship and just like having like original ideas out of nowhere, like boom, come up. And also the 12th house is very like it can be very like behind the scenes. Like the 12th house person can like be the one that pulls the strings behind the scenes and prefer that role than like the front man slash woman. All right, my favorite notes spoken about. Yes, yes, yes. Ooh, and then interesting. It's crazy. So Vertex and Part of Fortune are with the South Node. So that's very interesting. I haven't seen this really. My analysis right off the bat would be that so your South Node's in Gemini, but then your Part of Fortune, which represents like your joy, like joy slash your flow state, like your best, and then the Vertex is like all about fate, right? Um, so having them all together is interesting because the South nodes have been there, done that. But if you actually think about Part of Fortune conjunct South node, I would think that it would be about mastering the high Gemini energy and not being in the low Gemini energy, right? Um, and it's in the eighth house, so that just speaks to like how at your best is when you're going through that death rebirth transformation, that real deep honest shadow work, right? That surrender, as I said earlier. Um, yeah, surrendering the personal ego. Um, and yeah, in Gemini, it's just like I think it's about mastering communication. Um, and just learning and learning and learning and but not doing it in a way that's super scattered. And yeah, just like living in the present also. Not worrying too much because Scorpio Mercury, I feel like can be a little bit paranoid and worry about stuff a little too much and be a little bit rising a little bit intense. So yeah, midheaven, you have and I'll add this to the stars, but yeah, like Virgo midheavens are super hardworking, but sometimes they can be very perfectionist in their career. Um, they like order in their career. Um, very high standards for their own work, so sometimes they have to watch out. And the last one before I go into the astro, like or like the fixed stars, see if you have any important ones conjunct any planets, is Vesta. So Vesta is like Saturn, but like more pragmatic, I guess you could say. Um, yeah, more understood. That's about work. So first house Vesta, it's very entrepreneurial. In Scorpio, right? So Um, but like also like it can just make someone quite focused on themselves, and their goals. So it can have issues with relationships because there can be like an overfocus on that. But very, yeah, very good for success. And then Scorpio, what else did I say? I guess Vesta and Scorpio, yeah, just like probing deep in your work, like really wanting to be very committed. Like I think like research, like that kind of like vibe, just like going deep, 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 is super dedicated, almost obsessed. Um, with the work. So yeah, what else can I say? Okay, let's pull out these stars and then let's end this thing. How about that? So I can go to sleep. Sleepy sleep. Um, actually, I probably look tired, but I could literally do two more readings. No one believes me when I tell them that like when I look tired, like cognitively, I'm not at all. I think it's just because astrology boosts me so much, but whatever. Anyways, okay, so now I have to stare into this computer with all these little asteroids. So what's this one? Ooh, nice. How close? Really close. Okay, so you got Gamma Rising, and then you got like, just so you know what I'm looking at like the planets you saw. Just imagine that times like four. I'll just show you for a second, just so you can see. And I have to like, and it's so hard to tell the degrees. This is what I'm looking at. I'm trying to see like any important ones, like conjuncted. I already found one. Okay, so you saw what I'm seeing. What's this? Is this close? Is that 10 degrees? Nope. No. What's this one? Mm, okay. So it's just those two. Mercury, Aries, and more. Well, maybe this one close. Okay, let me look this up. QO. And then it was astrology, and then it was very hard to find information on a lot of these, but this one is important. Or am I still just falling asleep? Like, whatever, I'll find it. Yeah. Okay, so Alpheka. So you have a very fortunate star rising, very, 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 very close also. And that is Alpheka, aka Gamma. I've lost my stone. I say whatever, but I don't. Don't come back. Okay, wait, wait. Whatever. Okay, so this is what it says. I'm reading. Ascendant conjunct Alpheka. A life spent in a variety of pleasurable pursuits. Loved adornment. Secretly engaged in love affairs or adultery, potentially. A liking for literature, art and science, artistic talents, and also success in trade and commerce. It's a very good one. These are very old definitions, but this is a very idealistic psychic. It says neat, lovable, refined, gentle, intelligent. It gives honor, dignity, poetic, and artistic ability. It gives honor, dignity, artistic ability. But like all Venetian stars, can also have its undesirable effects. Let's see. So yeah, it's kind of saying that like it's really good, but then there can also be potential for some bad, some over the top stuff. Then you have lust also, like close to Mercury, which can make one very seductive with their voice. You have Nemesis conjunct Venus, so that can be looked at in different ways, right? Um, it can be looked at as Venus representing your, you being your worst enemy in 12th house, and like keeping, creating issues in love, or it can be looked at as your lover or whoever you if you're married or whatever, or you have dated people, having issues with them, where they're almost your enemies. So let's see. Would it okay? Yeah, so it says would Nemesis conjunct Venus signify lovers turning into enemies? So hard to find information. Yeah, so that could be a tough one. Then Quar, um, let's see if we can find anything on this. So Quar is very linked to creativity, even to fertility, reproduction, um, abortion. Apparently, I know that. This didn't tell me anything. Quar was on Mercury, right? Yes. think this is the one. Ooh, so Quar is actually Bill Gates had it very prominent. It's very like it can be very ge genius, and I'm not feeling like a genius right now because I dropped my Merlin stone. But it's about out of the box thinking, and you, my friend, I found it. You have it conjunct your Mercury, your mind. Um, so yeah, Steve Jobs had it on his sun, Paul McCartney on his ascendant, Ali on his Mars, Michael Jackson, Elvis. That's fucking awesome. And it's on your Mercury, so it can if it's square the planet. No, it's not true. Okay, let's see if I can find anything on Mercury. No. Yeah, so it's very good for success. And I'm looking for this one. Where are you? Did I save it? I was in Romanian. I mean, I speak and read Romanian probably, but not Astro. Actually, I can. I'm not doing that right now. Yeah. So I mean, look, like this is like very also good for intuitive abilities. So it says it signifies the true mystical experience will help you access a more profound reality where everything flows perfectly. You consider everything as sacred and develop great respect for life. Okay, where is the why does it not want to show me the last why you pretty much found it, but I'm just looking for something. Yeah, okay, oh this might be it. This is it, I'm giving up. But it doesn't matter because like literally what it is that it's like Quar is genius outside the box thinking. Okay. And to have it on your Mercury is unbelievable. Like you've probably seen through this reading that I don't like sugarcoat things. Like I say it how it is. Okay, last thing. So this planet represents the need for us to have dramatic shifts in awareness because many people have this planet conjunct blah, blah. No. It can feel especially difficult for these people to change their mindsets. That's interesting. So everyone who was born between 1993 and 2003 had a conjunct Pluto, and they say it can be difficult for these people to change their mindsets. It can feel like something is preventing them from this from occurring. But if you can use this energy well, you will feel that you have a fresh perspective on the world, your place in it. Okay, that's it. That is it, my friend. Um, I came into this being like, this is only gonna be an hour. Nope. Instead of doing 4 readings tonight in 4 hours, I do 2 readings in two, plus a 3 hour IG live and a ton of DMs. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit tired. Mm. Meh, 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 meh. Anyways, thank you. 2 hours, 6 minutes. Thank you. I will get this uploaded and sent to you. Thank you so much for your patience. You deserve long reading. And let me know. Oh yeah, last thing. Follow up. I highly suggest it. I highly suggest it with the current astrology. We can set a time. If you're interested, I will give you a massive discount. Usually it's 150 for the follow, which is an hour. Where we speak just about this. I know I already said this, but I'm just gonna give you the price now. And the current is 350, I believe. So it would be 500. It's 3 hours, but I would be happy to do it for guess how much? I feel like a salesman. I'd be happy to do it for so for 250 for the current astrology. The one that's like 2 hours, it's a little bit more. And um so that price is yeah set. Um and let me think for a second actually. No, okay. No, that's not right. That's not right. So if you get follow up and current astro, um, I would do it for 350. So 350 would be the price for both of them together. Um, for the just the current, it just melds together so well. I don't know. I'm just very curious. But just the current, I would do it for two I don't know, for 265 to 350. But yeah, like I said, I recommend the follow up unless it's like a financial thing. Anyways, uh hope you enjoyed. Hope you took a lot out of it. Um there's a lot of information. Talk to you later. Ciao.